Hey, this is the national treasure, Nick Aldis, and you're listening to the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the All Night Long Wrestling Podcast. We are your hosts. He's the Stallion. I'm the Enforcer. We've taken a sabbatical. It was a forced sabbatical. I'm scum. But here's what we're doing. There's so much. Joe, I don't know if you know this, but do you know it's an election year?
In the United States?
Yeah, in America.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've watched television or been anywhere lately, but like everything is kind of shitty, right? Like COVID, like all this election stuff, like everything kind of sucks. So you know what this is today, Joe? This is the Positively Positive Pro Wrestling Podcast. Normally, I come on here like a schmuck and rant about things and tell you why some things suck. And that's okay too sometimes, but I feel like there's a lot of negativity in the world today, and I'm here to cleanse the world of the negativity. That's why I'm wearing a white shirt. Kind of like what was that Goldust character he came out as? He was all white.
I thought it was Black Rain. No?
What? Oh, maybe. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. No, I thought it.
Could be
But
something
anyway,
else. I'm just not remembering. There's a lot of gimmicks out there.
Well, here's what we're going to do. All we're going to do is talk about the good side of things. There's a lot of good that's happened. And what I want us to do, you and I, is to focus on it. Now, we want to talk about the G1, but as per me being a giant slunker, I'm behind on the G1. I know what happened in the G1. I think I'm up to night 13 or 14. So I will catch up on those matches, and maybe you and I could do a G1 show next week. I don't want to give people too much information, but I got every match with the star ratings next to it. And since this is a positive show, I'm not allowed to talk about evil because that would not fall under the guidelines of this show. Would it, Joe?
No. So does that mean how much time am I allotted to talk about Dexter Lumis on this show? I don't know how long you want. Do you have a lot of time to?
Do you hear Hunter? Like he was happening. You talking about Dexter Lumis gets Hunter upset. I mean, if you feel that strongly about DL, Dexter Loom, you are more than welcome to talk about him, Joe.
All right.
So we're just going to kind of fly off the cuff. It's going to be you know what it is? It's a variety show. So there have been a lot of things. I love that he's so excited right now. Hunter is. You can hear it, right?
The growling and the barking? Yeah, it's audible. Yeah, sure.
That's fine. So there have been a lot of good things of course we're talking about wrestling, but a lot of good things in the world of wrestling lately that have maybe flown under the radar, right? That people haven't really paid a lot of attention to because there is a lot of negative. Raw hasn't been the most wonderful show. It's at the internet talking the draft and stuff like that. So it's really, we're just focusing on that negative energy. But I'm going to tell you some things that have been going on in wrestling, Joe, that I've enjoyed. The G1, I think, goes without saying, it's been fantastic. We're going to touch on that next week. Last week was The Collective, Joe, hosted by Game Changer Wrestling, The Collective. There were 709 matches over 49 days of a weekend in The Collective. And it's 712 matches, I'm not sure. But
over how many days?
49 days.
That's a pretty long weekend, I think.
11 matches a day. Yeah, no, it felt like it, but in a good way. Like when you and I had gone to WrestleMania weekend 2 years ago, there were the atmosphere was great, but in the hotel there was wrestling. There were cards going on from pretty much 11 a.m. till 9 o'clock every single night.
Yeah, WrestleCon weekend, and a lot of people probably know a lot of independent promotions kind of descend upon the location of where WrestleMania is and put on a lot of shows over the course of a 3 or 4 day span. So similar, I guess, concept.
It is because the Collective was going to happen this year at WrestleMania weekend, but it didn't happen. And the thing that's so cool about the Collective is, and anytime you have that, is the talents are already going to be in town, right? So you don't have to pay the booking fees and the flights. So you tend to have more stacked shows than you traditionally do because you don't have to pay so much money to get this talent in here. Boy, he's so excited. It's great. But one of the promotions that I found to be just a can't miss promotion, and I would love to thank Fight TV as well as IndependentWrestling.tv for hooking up me with this company and exposing it to me, have been Black Label Pro. Black Label Pro Wrestling has been something that I saw a couple of the shows when they came back. They had We're Back, a wrestler story, and Black Label Pro Through Being Cool, which I believe is an homage to early 2000s emo band Saves the Day, which is just a real deep cut. And then they had their TurboGraps show as well. Like, so they're putting on, they're based out of Indianapolis, Indiana, so the Midwest, if you will. And there are a lot of stars on that show that, you know, are in other places, but also like they made a name for themselves in the Midwest. Calvin Tankman is a name. Are you familiar with Calvin Tankman?
No, unless he's related to Tank Abbott, then no.
Sure. No, okay. I don't think so. They don't look that similar. Calvin Tankman, he's a big old heavyweight dude. He's kind of he kind of looks like Willie Mack. He kind of wrestles like a stronger style Willie Mack. He's been doing some really, really awesome stuff. A tag team you and I love, the besties in the world. These guys have been, just they took their Evolve tag team titles. Speaking of Evolve, if anybody from Evolve is listening to the show, pay me my money for the refund from April. Okay.
What the positivity, man? I think we're veering off the track here.
No. I want that instead of the negative next to the money in the account, put the positive sign in there. But so Jake something is another guy from Black Label Pro that is just a monster. I believe you said he's in Impact Wrestling, correct?
I think when you mentioned him to me at one point recently that I just did a little research on him and found that he has done some work in Impact Wrestling, yes.
Cousin Jake, a.k.a. Jake Diener. So, yeah, look at that. Billy Starks, who we've had on the All Night Long Wrestling podcast.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, yeah. Alex Zane is another guy that is a stalwart, if you will, there. Isaiah Velasquez and Kylie Ray. Isaiah Velasquez is probably going to be the next. If you put him in there with the Rascals, like they wouldn't miss a beat. He's a guy that I think you're going to see a lot of things from. And your favorite and mine, Danhausen, right? You're big Danhausen guy.
I prefer Dan the Dad if I'm really picking a person.
Okay,
but no, I'm not a Danhausen fan. I'm not.
Okay.
Poor Dan the Dad, by the way. I don't want to bring any negativity into this, but the collective, of course, I think one of the bigger news stories, unfortunately, coming out of the collective is the fact that there were some positive COVID tests after the weekend, and some of those workers, such as Danhausen, as you mentioned, were not able to appear at like Ring of Honor tapings or things of that nature because of those positive tests. So hopefully anybody who tested positive is not feeling too many symptoms and is on the road to recovery quickly if they are.
Yeah, and I believe speaking of Ring of Honor, I'm pretty sure they're paying the people that are not allowed to come into the Ring of Honor bubble for missing the dates. And Ring of Honor has been paying their talent the entire way through, so kudos to them. A lot of companies aren't doing that. I think that's great. But as far as Black Label Pro goes, possibly my favorite discovery from this company, Violence is Forever. Kevin Koo, Dominic Arini, these dudes fucking rule. You have to watch their matches. They kill people dead in a good way. Not in a, I'm gonna kill you kind of way, but like in the ring, they are they have like a Dom Guarini, I think, is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so he does have that suplex style and that submission style. And Kevin Koo is a really good striker. They're like maybe like a plus 60 or 70 pound Red Dragon-esque style, and they have some really intuitive tag team moves, and they put on some just excellent matches. So those are one of the teams that have really opened my eyes. Man, this company, there's a lot going on out here that I haven't been paying attention to. And it's not because I don't like it, but it's because like indie wrestling, you don't think Indianapolis, Indiana, but that's one of my biggest takeaways from last weekend was Black Label Pro and just everything going on at the collective. You had Joey Janela's spring break. and a ton of other stuff. But give me something positive, Joe. Something good, something that you've been enjoying, something that you like lately in wrestling.
Well, I mean, we mentioned Ring of Honor, and I think that they, since they've returned to producing television shows since the pandemic began, so I think they came back maybe like a little over 4 to 6 weeks ago, let's say. They've been doing a tournament for the ROH Pure Championship, which they've brought back. So it had been retired for several years, and they brought it back apparently as a result of a fan or fans kind of voting on it or pushing for it to return. So they've been doing this tournament, 2 blocks, it's really just been the matches themselves are really supposed to be based around pure wrestling and not a lot of gimmicky stuff. There's no closed fist punching. There's 3 rope breaks per person. There's a timer on the screen as you're watching the matches. So there's things like that where it kind of puts a little bit of a different twist on the matches in terms of getting submissions or going for pinfalls. And, if it goes to 15 minutes in the first round or 20 minutes in the second round, whatever it is, it goes to a judge's decision. So it's just a different type of wrestling, a different style a little bit that they're presenting versus what they had just been doing generally before or what you see from a lot of other companies. And I think it's a nice little change of pace if you're just looking for something different in like an American wrestling promotion. I think there's been several matches on there that are very good. And you have guys like John Gresham, Tracy Williams, Fred Yehai, Jay Lethal, guys that have really have a background in technical wrestling and are able to kind of show their skills in this tournament. So I won't give anything away in terms of where they're at, but the matches I've seen so far have been very entertaining, and I've been enjoying watching it every week. You can go on to rohwrestling.com and watch the latest show from there, or obviously if you're an Honor Club member, you can watch it from there as well.
Thank you for not giving spoilers away. With the G1 going on, there's so much wrestling. I'm still catching up on a lot of the shows from the collective, so I have not got around to watching the Pure tournament as much as I would have liked, but I'm going to. And I love that style of wrestling. I love the wrestlers that are in there, bringing in, pretty much the catch point, with Fred. Is it Yehai?
Yehai, I think.
Yeah, Fred Yehai. We've seen him wrestle a million times in Evolve. I just never really knew how to say his name because, again, I'm a schmuck. Jonathan Gresham, he's a guy that really has just been so much fun to watch over, I would say, like the last year and a half. He's been really good. But I want to piggyback on what you just said, that style of wrestling. Josh Barnett Bloodsport is it's similar to the Pure tournament, right? It's no closed fist strikes to the head. You could strike to the body. It's pancrase rules for any, and UWFI rules for any of the old school heads, the kids say. But it also took place over the collective weekend, and it is a no rope submission shoot-esque style event. Tap out, knockout, referee stoppage only. Holy potato pancakes, Joe. Let me tell you, this event ruled. If you're familiar with old Pride fighting, it was it had a vibe like that because before the show, they would announce all the wrestlers that come to the ring. They stand like in a traditional way. Josh Barnett was fought in Pride forever. And they announced each person, and then like it was taken like a sport. And kudos to AEW because they had guys that weekend all over the collective. They had Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley main evented the collective against the Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson. And Moxley came out to Violet by Hole. Do you remember that song?
I do.
Dude, it tore the place down. It was so cool. And you could tell Moxley just enjoyed everything about that event. He really does seem like he loves independent wrestling. He gets a chance to be himself, and he showed a different style. And it was littered with friends of the show. Lindsay Snow defeated Layla Hirsch in a couple minutes, and Allison Kay defeated Killer Kelly. And then it was actually a women's tournament, and Lindsay Snow became the Bloodsport women's tournament champion after she defeated Allison Kay. It was and those two, both of those girls compete in mixed martial arts or in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it was a very strong match. And the biggest pop of the night, aside from Moxley, was Homicide. Dude, to see Homicide in 2020 come out and literally stomp the shit out of Tom Lawler's face. He held him by both arms and stomped his face. It was so good. Davey Boy Smith fought Josh Alexander, one half of the North. Another really, really good match. If you're into that style, I know you said you don't love that style, but the more I think about it, it's very similar to the Ring of Honor Pure title. And it was just, it's hard hitting. Simon Grimm, one half of the Vaudevillains, was also on the show. Really, really just good stuff all around. I love Josh Barnett Bloodsport. And you have to be a special type of person to be able to compete in that, because you're going to get potatoed. You're going to get, high angle backdrop drivers is what they like to say a lot. The strikes are going to be strong. The submissions are going to be tight. It's going to look good. It's going to look real. And actually, the WrestleBotch, if you go to their Instagram, it's in the middle of the Lindsay Snow Allison K match. It's shot dead on, kind of like the way Raw and everything is shot at Madison Square Garden. So if you look at it, you see the ring, and right behind the ring is the entranceway. There's a dude that went to sit, like an older gentleman, like a heavier set older gentleman, went to sit in a chair, and you just watch him sit in the chair, and then everything collapses underneath him, and I felt terrible. And there was a dog there too, so it was just a lot going on. But if you get a chance, go to Fight TV. We don't have a promo code or anything, but I've been pimping Fight TV for quite some time. And look up Josh Barnett Bloodsport. They have, I think this is the third one. I forget who the first Bloodsport was. It wasn't Josh Barnett, but really, really good stuff. Go check it out. Everything that happened over at the Collective, GCW put on a really good weekend.
I think, similar timing in terms of a return was NXT UK came back in September, and they're doing a tournament of their own. It's for the Heritage Cup. So a lot of tournaments going on, of course, different promotions, different stakes, a lot of stuff happening. AEW has a tournament going on, the G1, all these different things. But the Heritage Cup has a little bit of a different twist to it in terms of the rules. So it's more of a British UK style with rounds that last a few minutes each, and a fall ends the round, and you can also win by knockout, and there's things like that happen there. So that's a little bit of a different twist or a different angle on how they're presenting some of their shows. But in addition to that, last week, and I know we talked about this off air, they're building up to a Walter versus Ilya Draganov UK title match. Draganov had won a battle royal before the pandemic. NXT UK shut down for several months. They're now back, but he still holds the number one contendership. And last week, they did a tag team main event. It was Walter and Alexander Wolf versus Ilya Dragunov and Pete Dunne. And
what a cast of characters. Holy cow.
And that match was excellent. Probably the best match I've seen, just in either NXT or NXT UK on a weekly television show, maybe the whole year. So, or maybe the only other one I could think of from NXT television that holds a candle to it is Adam Cole and Finn Balor. That one was really good as well. But this match was really great. There's no crowd really there. So it's at BT Studios in the UK. There's no fans. There's no Thunderdome. There's none of that stuff. But you can tell there's some people maybe like behind the camera. So I'm not sure if it's crew or other folks. So you can hear some reactions here and there, but it's still pretty empty. But when you hear the Walter chops in an empty arena, it really echoes out. So if anybody gets a chance to check this match out on WWE Network, it's just really, really hard hitting, really brutal. Dragunov's chest looks like processed meat after it's over with. It's really just really brutal. But I'm enjoying watching those shows because, again, they're sticking to
the formula that works.
Yeah, it's 1 hour, right? What NXT and the main NXT brand used to be. They do have the Heritage Cup going on. Kaylee Ray is a very strong women's champion there. She's been doing a lot of good stuff. And now they have this Walter versus Dragunov match, which if it's anything like the tag match from last week, it should be great. And I think that's the whole point of why they did the tag match, was to build more interest in that match. And I think that makes people want to check it out even more. So that's something else that I enjoyed recently on NXT UK TV.
That's awesome. I'm really looking forward to catching up with NXT UK. It's on my list with Ring of Honor. So while there isn't, if you're down on Monday Night Raw, and it's okay, you're allowed to be. It hasn't been good, but that's not to say the WWE as a whole hasn't been doing a good job. SmackDown has been interesting, somewhat entertaining, but NXT, and like you said, NXT UK, they're really putting their best foot forward in terms of matches. I think they know their audience in those shows, and they cater to their audience. And I'm sure the reviews and the ratings on the WWE Network reflect that. Another thing I've been enjoying in professional wrestling lately: 2 words, Mad King, Eddie Kingston. I'm sorry. What were you thinking the words were?
I thought it was going to be Roman Reigns, but go ahead. Sorry, Eddie Kingston. My bad.
Yeah, Eddie Kingston is a guy that we've been championing for quite some time here. Love Eddie Kingston. Every single thing Eddie Kingston's ever done has been great. His matches in the ring look no further than All Japan, King's Road style. He's going to punch you in the face. He's going to get punched in the face. He's going to suplex you. You're going to suplex him. And he's going to cut the most realistic, not scripted, legitimate, real promo you've ever seen. He is money everywhere he goes, and now on a big stage. Kudos to AEW for taking this guy from quote-unquote obscurity, who was I don't want to say toiling around in the indies. He was in all of the big independent promotions. He was in Impact for a long time. He was in Ring of Honor back in the day. He was in Chikara. He was in Evolve on the WWE Network, but he never had a permanent home somewhere. And now he has a permanent home in AEW, and he is making the most of his minutes. Eddie Kingston cannot miss television. Him cutting promos. The man came out with jorts and a couple of necklaces and like what looked like a FUBU shirt, and he cut a promo, and it was the most realistic thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, I'm scared of a dude wearing jorts, man. Like it's been so good, and they have him in the middle of the main event picture with Jon Moxley. Like a year ago, I wouldn't picture Eddie Kingston is on AEW television. Like it doesn't make sense to me, but AEW is doing a really, really good job of listening to their fans now. Really the entire time. I think 2 of the things that you dislike the most in AEW, correct me if I'm wrong, were the Nightmare Collective and what else? And there was something else, right? There was 2 things.
The 2 things I think from last year or early this year, late last year, that I didn't particularly care for, and I think a lot of people were having trouble with, were the Nightmare Collectives with Brandy Rhodes, and then the Dark Order Exalted one. Yes, I think people were not feeling those 2 acts.
Yeah, and I feel like they gave it a couple of weeks to try and get it over. I didn't necessarily hate it. The Nightmare Collective thing really was waning on me, but the Dark Order thing, it took a turn, and it took a turn for the better, and they got rid of the Nightmare thing with Brandy Rhodes. Like they listened to the audience, and they were like, all right, we're going to pivot. Let's see if this works. And I feel like if the Dark Order didn't work after the Exalted one, they probably would have just, shelved it. So kudos to AEW for listening to their fans and listening to, what they want. They truly, I feel like they truly want to put on a show every week that people want to tune into, not that they feel like they have to tune into. And I think that's what they're doing by listening to the people.
Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, that's true. I think the last thing I wanted to bring up in terms of positives was just highlight some of I was trying to think of one person in each promotion that I watch that has been doing some really good things, whether that's in ring or promos or just overall presence on television. And I think, so just hitting upon them quickly without going into ridiculous detail, because I don't want to ramble on, but from a WWE main roster perspective, I think that the Roman Reigns and Jey Uso program has probably been the best thing on main roster TV storyline wise. I think that Reigns' new heel character has really seemed to get a lot of good reviews from fans and stuff that I read in the IWC, I believe it's called. So from NXT, I think that Damien Priest, I find to be someone that I think has been much more entertaining to me over the last several months. Don't look Don't look at me like that. I think he's really been. He has good matches. I thought his matches with Gargano, especially at the last takeover, was very good. He's facing him again coming up on the Halloween Havoc episode. He's kind of stood out a little bit among some of the mid-card guys that they were trotting out there for a while. You know, the Cameron Grimes, the Dexter Loomis, the Velveteen Dream. I'm sure there's other guys.
The Velvet who?
You know what I mean? So I think his character has been pretty entertaining, and he's put on some good matches. So I enjoy him. John Gresham in ROH, like you mentioned before, that tournament is built for him. I hope that he wins it. I think he deserves it. His matches are very, very, very excellent. They're crisp. All sorts of good stuff happening there. And then for New Japan, I know both of us are still in the midst of the G1 nights. We have a few nights each left to watch. But Tomohiro Ishii has been, I think, a consistent performer and putting on good matches no matter who he faces in that tournament. I think in his block, he has a lot of opponents that he can have really good matches with, and some folks where you're not sure how the match would go. But I saw him face Yujiro Takahashi, who to this point, and I know what happens at the end, but I know to this point he has not won a match, at least as far as I've gone up to night 13. And he got a good match from him. He had a good match with Jay White. He's just a good match with Shingo. He's just everything that he's done so far has been really good to great. So for those who are watching that tournament or maybe thinking about checking out some of the best matches when it's over with, I would suggest or recommend anything that involves Ishii in any of the nights that he wrestled.
Do you know what I call Ishii?
You know what? I don't even want to guess because I feel like whatever I would come up with would not do justice. So.
Here we go. I got this for you.
Okay.
Easter 10月
Did you? I'll play it again.
Okay, hang on.
Easter 10月
Was that Miho Abe?
It actually was Miho, and I'm calling Tomohiro Ishii Mr. October. Because this year the G1 has been in October. You can call him Mr. G1. You call him whatever you want. You put Tomohiro Ishii in a ring with the other guy doesn't have to be alive. He doesn't have to be breathing, and you're gonna get a great match. That match with Yujiro was, we both love Ishii for God knows how long. He's the most underrated professional wrestler in the entire world, and I will fight anybody that disagrees with me. That's how strongly I feel. But when he had that match with Yujiro, I was like, holy shit, this guy can literally do no wrong. And what he gives in such a short amount of time, in a month, 5 weeks, I can't imagine what his body goes through physically to recover from this tournament. His match, and everything you said is dead on balls accurate. And the other guy that I will throw in there too is Shingo. Shingo is another guy that is, these two bring up their opponent to their level. And to get near Shingo or Ishii's level, it is otherworldly. They are, I can't say enough good things about every single thing that they do. I love watching the G1. So echo your sentiments there. As far as NXT goes, I'm going to give it to my boy Kyle O'Reilly. I feel like he took a huge step forward in his match with Finn Balor. They just destroyed each other. He proved he is worthy of a singles run. Do I want to see him be a singles competitor? Sure. Do I want to see him be a singles competitor right now? I don't know, because I still think Kyle and Bob have an amazing future as a tag team. But I sent you a post from Instagram last week that popped you that Bob posted, and he called himself and Roddy the Rod and Bob Express. And that's just so good. So that might be the direction they're going in. Kyle O'Reilly's been doing just great stuff. And as far as SmackDown goes, you give it to Roman. I give it to Uso. He's Jay, right? It's Jay.
It's Jay. Yeah.
Jay Uso. He's carrying himself like a heavyweight in the ring. He's handling himself well on the mic. It's been really, really good stuff to watch. I think there's a lot of standout stuff on these shows, but there is some good stuff too on Raw. Not to get into Raw, but I think the problem is when it's a 3-hour show and the majority of it isn't good, you tend to lean on that. If it was a 2-hour show, you trim the fat, people could maybe focus more on the positive stuff like they do on SmackDown. So there is a lot of professional wrestling that's going on right now. There's a lot of good professional wrestling that's going on. And my last thing that I'm excited about, WWE, do you think they listened to the show when I brought it up about Halloween Havoc? Because I said they should bring back Halloween Havoc. They're not making it a special event. They're making it a Wednesday night show, which is fine because AEW does the same thing. But it's a Wednesday night Halloween Havoc. Halloween Havoc has been my favorite pay-per-view ever. And believe it or not, later in the WCW years, that was their biggest pay-per-view of the year. Everybody thought it was Starrcade. It wasn't. It was Halloween Havoc historically. In the early days of Halloween Havoc, it was cool. You had the theme, the old school graphics, and now Shotzi Blackheart is she. I get it. I get why Shotzi is the what's the word I'm looking for? The host?
Hosting? Yeah, I believe she's hosting it.
She's hosting Halloween Havoc. Wouldn't be my first choice, but I'm just glad the WWE brought it back. And Triple H really seems to love that early, that late NWA, early WCW stuff. And I think they did it with Great American Bash, right? And they've done it with Starrcade now. They've done it with Halloween Havoc. Is there anything I'm missing? Clash of Champions.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're doing a spin the wheel, make the deal, apparently. So that's another thing. I'm just hoping that Shotzi Blackheart wears a Dexter Lumis costume for Halloween. I think that would be a nice just way to tie everything in together with some of the scary characters and that they have in NXT.
I'm hanging on by a thread. I'm really trying my best. This is the powerful, positive pro wrestling, powerfully positive, power of positivity, whatever it is. It's the All Night Long Wrestling podcast focusing on the good because there's too much shit going on in the world and in life to focus on the negative. We're here to focus on the good. We just gave you about 30, 45 minutes of good things in professional wrestling. We want to hear from you. What is good? What have you enjoyed? Instead of being the first person to click on a story on Insta, book, Gram, Face, whatever, and shit on the topic or say this sucks or that sucks, be the guy that posts something good. And then when that other guy posts something negative, block him, ignore him. Focus on the good, man. There's too much good stuff going on. But I know what Bagu's going to say. Bagu's going to say everything good is the G1, and he'll be right. But that's his prerogative. We will touch upon the G1 next week. We'll have our predictions for Halloween Havoc next week because I'm really looking forward to that show, and they seem to be stacking it very well. And without further ado, we can't thank you guys enough for checking us out. We are on social media everywhere at All Night Long WP, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Actually, it's facebook.com/allnightlongwp. But I posted a GIF, a little video of Josh Alexander and Layla Hirsch on Twitter that just blew up. Josh Alexander is a scary, scary dude. The match was great. Go check out all the stuff from the collective. Watch the G1. Tell us what you like. Follow along. Give us a like, a retweet. Thanks to the guys at WrestlingHeadlines.com, YouTube.com, Wrestling Headlines. Follow along on there. Give us a like. Give us a follow. And we appreciate it. The other thing I'm going to tell you, Joe, in a week and a half, you know what's coming, right? Actually, it's 11 days from right now, 12 days, the opening of the Wrestling Universe store in our backyard, man. The Wrestling Universe store right now is in Flushing, Queens, and every single weekend they have the who's who of professional wrestling doing autograph signings in there. I couldn't be happier for the guys that run it. They do a great job. It's a very professional shop, and now they're going to have one right in Comac, man. That's where you and I grew up. That's literally in our hometown.
It's true. Yeah. Yeah. November 1st, as you said, it opens up in Comac. They have a store in Flushing, Queens right now. They have a lot of signings, a lot of collectibles, like you said. So it's going to be cool to check it out.
And I mean, the Comac store already, they have the Rock and Roll Express lined up. You ever think you'd meet the Rock and Roll Express in Comac in 2020? Where are we, man? What's going on?
I don't know where I am. Every day I ask myself that question when I get up out of bed. Where am I?
Well, I'll tell you where you're going to be next week. You're going to be here for Joe, the Stallion. I am the Enforcer, and we are tapping out.
friends.